Hello, my name is Christopher Evanstar, and welcome to this video. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you watching today. I have a pile of books next to me. I'm going to do a book haul, and these are books that I've collected over the last probably 2 months, I would say. And I'm thinking about book hauls because I will be participating in the Read What Your Own challenge for the second time. This is a challenge, if you don't know, created by CriminOlly a few years ago, and it's hosted by MJ at Reading This Life, Crystal at Fiber Artsy, Greg at Another Bibliophile Reads, and CriminOlly, I believe. But so, I'll be talking about a few channels as I go through this book haul, and of course I'll put all that down below if you hopefully want to check that out. So, I've got to shore up my shelves before I start the challenge, and these are some of the books I've bought recently. Quite a few. I love collecting books, and I read very slowly. Most of the books that are on my shelves that you might see I've not read or have only read parts of them. So I've got plenty of books to choose from for my challenge, which I'll probably talk about later. We'll see in another video. Because today I want to talk about these books. So the first book, we're going to start with poetry. What can I say? I love poetry. And I've bought 3 poetry books recently, and they all look great. So the first one is called Orlam by PJ Harvey. Now, if you don't know who PJ Harvey is, I would say that she is a big inspiration for me. I've been following her. She's a musician, a rock musician she began as a rock musician in the 90s, and she sings very, very heartfelt music that is so wonderful. And this book came out in 2023, and it's a poetry book where it's a narrative poem. It's a collection of poems, I suppose, that follows a year in the life of Ira Abel Rawls in Dorset, England. And PJ Harvey did a modern English on one side and a Dorset English on the other side, a Dorset dialect on the other side. So it's a little bit mysterious, which is great for this book because it sort of reads to me like a bit of a scary fairy tale. It's about her experience with ghosts and with the people around, some of which are not the best people in the world. So it was a rough year, and I've read this twice, and I don't understand it all perfectly yet. Not even close. I guess I shouldn't even say perfectly. I still have a lot of questions. And recently I went to see PJ Harvey in concert. She has a companion CD that goes with this called I Inside the Old Year Dying. Came out this year. And early on, PJ Harvey started out as sort of a hard rockin' group and she's so creative. I think she wrote most of the music, if I had to guess. But now with this album and with her last album, she has a much more enchanting, ethereal sound, and her concert was very theatrical, very somber, and perfect for October. So I'm very excited to read this for the 3rd time. I finally picked it up right before the concert, and it's going to be a lot of fun. There is a YouTube video of PJ Harvey reading from this, so I'll link that down below too, if I can find it. Orlam by PJ Harvey. Very excited. Now the next poetry book is Milton's Paradise Lost, which I've never read. I got this at Powell's recently, and it has some of the students highlighting on here. Not a ton. I like that kind of stuff, so I'm happy to see it. But I don't think they got very far into this thing. Yeah, in fact, most of it is in the introduction, just like some circled words and stuff. The reason I got this book is not because I'm reading it, but because I've been going with my friend Alan from Big Hard Big Hard Books and Classics to this poetry recital, I should say, from memory at the Rose City Book Club. And it's amazing. The voices are great. I think I talked about this before. Anyway, it's fantastic. And I don't even bring this with me because I just want to hear her do the recital. So Alan's got a nice video of that experience, so I'll link that as well. Paradise Lost by John Milton. This was published, by the way, in 1667, which is the year after a year featured in Neil Stephenson's Quicksilver, and it's a fascinating year in England, so I'm excited to learn more about that. And I think I will be reading that more closely over the next 2 years, probably. Okay. Now, the final poetry book is from I.J. King, who is a booktuber and author-tuber here on YouTube. And this is a personal set of poems that she wrote in that she published in 2020. And she has a magnificent reading of Earthstruck, one of the poems in here, on her channel. So I'm going to link that below. I listened to that this morning. I haven't dived very deep into this, but I got to say, IJK, thank you very much for giving us this book. And I look forward to reading it and hearing more of your recitals on your channel. It was very excellent. Great music to go with it. Great rhythm. Very good. Oh, and another thing interesting about this book that I like is she put these journal pages for each poem, so you can record your thoughts within the book as you go along. So I'm excited for that. I think that's great. Rounded Soul by I.J. King. Okay, next one. This one I've actually finished, and this is God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater by Kurt Vonnegut. This book, I don't remember when it was written, but again, 1965 is the copyright. And this book is so funny. I loved it. It's a weird ride for sure. I'm reminded, the way I keep thinking about it is that Vonnegut has all of these characters, this big group of characters, big cast, and they're like billiard balls bouncing around, affecting one another, and he characterizes them very well. I think my favorite character was Fred Rosewater, who is a relative of the Mr. Rosewater that's probably the protagonist of this novel. I read this with Alan for the Vonnegut book club, and with all book clubs, I'm so slow. I'm always the last one done, and everyone's already discussed it. So I've got to figure out a better way to handle book clubs so that I can participate rather than just read it after everybody else is all done and miss out on the comments because I'm worried about spoilers. I need to readjust my thoughts on that one. But this is a great book. I've read 6 or 7 Vonnegut books, I believe. Always enjoyed them. Don't remember them all, but this one had me laughing and cringing and wondering and being confused, and the characters are very, very memorable, very interesting and unique. So God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater. I highly recommend this book. Okay, now this next book is very special. This is called Eskimo Adventure, and this word is not, this is one of those troublesome words these days. Like, we might see Inupiat Adventure instead of Eskimo Adventure these days. But this was written in this was written a long time ago. It was published in 1963 by a pair of travelers. The writer is Edward L. Keithahn. And the reason I care about this book is it details their time in Shishmaref in the 20s. Now, Shishmaref is off of western Alaska. If you know about the western side of Alaska, there's a little nose part that sticks out. And here's a picture of it. Am I upside down? No, I'm correct. Okay, and Nome, you can see down here. So if you're familiar with Nome, Alaska, that's the biggest town in the area. And Shishmaref is over on the other side, the northern side of the peninsula. So anyway, the reason I care is at that time my ancestors lived in Shishmaref, and so they might be in this book. I don't know. I don't know a ton about them, but there's these great photos in the back of people at the time, and it's quite possible that one of these people is my great-grandmother, but I have no clue. I was walking by the Central Library in Portland, and I was like, I don't really need to go to the library, but I'll just walk in for a second, just, you know, who knows. Went by the free rack, and this was waiting for me, so very excited to read about this. I hope to find my great-grandfather went from Cornwall, UK, to this place and married my great-grandmother there, whom I've only met once when I was very, very small, and she's passed on now. She was born in the 1800s, I believe, or no, she was born in early 1900s, I think. So anyway, looking forward to reading this. It could be a little wild, you know, it could be a little crazy, but it should be fun. Okay, the next two books are sort of booktube related, and the first one is the Garbology. I picked up the Garbology eventually, and I finally started it too. I read MJ over at Reading This Life, so I read her story, which was great. Loved it. It's a ton of fun. So thank you very much for that. And I took a look at Alan's picture in here that he did. Let's see if I can find it quickly. Yeah, here we go. Alan at Big Hard Books and Classics picture here. So I'm looking forward to reading this. I love having a few short story books around that I go through slowly. Occasionally I'll just plow through them, but this is definitely one I'll be looking forward to. And tons of booktubers in here, so yeah, looking forward to it. Garbology. And speaking of MJ at Reading This Life, for Occult Detective October, I picked up this one, the Occult Detective magazine. This is the Mythos Special 2, which I believe is the latest. And this was written by, or it was edited by John Linwood Grant and Dave Brzeski. And I read the bibliophile by Nick Marsh the other day, and it was great. I really liked it. It surprised me, I'll say, and it had a really good ambiance. We were taken back into 1800s Italy and brought into this world of scholarship that was excellent. So thank you for that, Nick, and thank you to the editors for Occult Detective magazine. I'm looking forward to even more short stories to be able to pick from for the rest of the year. Okay. This book is not booktube related. This is the Oxford Book of Carols. This one was published in 1964 and has a lot of traditional religious carols in it. And I bought this particularly, it might be hard to see here. I'll get really close. Let me find a good one. Well, you know, Christmas was coming, and I thought, let's get a book of carols because I don't have any. And this isn't going to have like Jingle Bells and Frosty the Snowman, so I might have to go back out again. But it does have the choir, music written in choir form, where you have the soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. So this gives me, I'm an amateur beginner musician, and I really love piano and singing, so there's a lot of chances for sight singing and sight piano, and I can try out the different voice types and the notes that I can make with my voice, and also tons for playing piano as well. And the carols in here, some of them are extremely poetic. I mean, you know, they're song lyrics, and some of them are ballads, which I really enjoy. So this is going to be with me for a long time, I think, and I look forward to using it to learn more and maybe to help me write songs. A lot of these are traditional, so I can certainly use these in my own works as well. The Oxford Book of Carols. Okay, now this next author, I've got two books by him, And this is one of my go-to authors, Tim Powers. I love this guy. He's a speculative fiction writer, and his popular books is the Anubis Gates. That's the one I hear the most often. But he's got this thing where he reads about something and people do something stupid or unusual, doesn't make any sense, and then he thinks of a magical supernatural reason why it makes a ton of sense. And that's sort of his shtick. He talks about it in some of his interviews. And my favorite book of his is Last Call, which is about poker players, and it's about ritual magic and just chaotic circumstance, all within the world of playing poker. Wonderful book. He is quite good at times writing things that are fast paced and adventurous, but also at the same time, like in the book Declare, things that are more ponderous, deeper, and have a ton of research behind them. So Tim Powers is excellent, and I actually picked this book up on accident. I thought I was getting the latest, but this is one that came out in 2012, and it's a vampire story where a lot of authors, famous authors from the 1800s, appear in this book. And the crazy coincidence is that the poet I just learned about the other day and did a recital in one of my other videos, Christina Rossetti, is featured in this book. I mean, it's just one of those things, you know. I found that book of Christina Rossetti's and loved it. Verses, it's called. Yeah, I don't have it here, but and then over at Roy Reads Anything, Dr. Jenny did a reading of Christina Rosetta, which was fantastic and wonderful. I'll leave that down below. And now I randomly, accidentally bought this book that also features Christina Rossetti. So, kismet or what, let me tell you. Anyway, so I'm excited to read this. I think I've read 5 or 6 of his books, and he's got quite a few still. And he's been writing a long time, because the next book I got was Forsake the Sky by Tim Powers. And this was written in 1976. Another interesting thing about Tim Powers is he was friends with Philip K. Dick, and so he has a lot of fun things to say about PKD in the thing. And my favorite thing about it was Philip K. Dick would say strange things in interviews, and Tim Powers admitted posthumously he was kind of a troll. So I like that about Philip K. Dick for sure. This book I know nothing about, so I'm going to actually read the back. Forsake the Sky. Frank Rovzar has seen his father murdered most foully in the palace coup. Escaping the deadly transports, he flees to the only safe place he can think of, Munson Underground, the city beneath the surface of the planet, den of thieves and haven of the damned. Rovzar has only 2 goals. The first is survival, the second is vengeance. He will have both, he vows, and embarks on a course that will see him rise through the dregs of society to the very pinnacle of power. In a time when the Earth's interplanetary empire is crumbling, on a world where technology has begun to fail, when the right ruler of the planet has been deposed by renegades, one young man embodies the spirit of survival. 1976. With that that sounds familiar for that time period. I'm very excited to read this one as well. And it's a short one. I suspect this might have been a quickly written sci-fi novel, but I don't know. Let's find out. Tim Powers. Okay, now finally, I have 3 comics. I've not been buying many comics. I bought them frequent, or not religiously, every week for a couple of years. But I stopped reading them, so I kind of stopped. You know, I've got a lot to read. But I was at, I think it was Bridge City Comics in Portland the other day, and I picked up 3. The first is Megaton Man. This was in the dollar bin. And I was struck by the cover. At first I thought it was like a variant of the Tick or something like that. But I don't think so. This was written in 1986 by Donald Simpson, whom I know nothing about. Wait, that's not the one I wanted to show you. I mean, it is cool, though. You can kind of see the art style here. It should be a lot of fun. Donald Simpson did have a collaboration in the 80s with Alan Moore, and he did do some writing in the 80s for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but that's all I know about him. As far as I can tell, this has nothing to do with the Tick. It was done by Kitchen Sink Comics. Oh, and here's the back as well. And this is the last issue, so I'm just going to go in reading the very last issue, number 10, or maybe 11 is the last issue. I'm not sure. Anyway, should be fun. The next one, I got the latest Fantastic Four issue with this great cover. I've collected some of this run, but not all of it. Like I said, I stopped buying comics for a while. So eventually, you know, Fantastic Fours don't typically... They're typically good to get as back issues because their prices don't go up for the more current ones. But I like this Halloween cover for the December issue. Is that right? It doesn't say the month on it. Yeah, Fantastic Four. And this one features Johnny Storm and Reed Richards. I think the whole story is about them. And the last one, I know nothing about, and I'm only going to show you the cover because I bought it because of the cover. And it's a number 1, so I don't want to even look inside. I just want to open the first page and start reading. I'll put the authors up a little closer so you can see. Yeah. Great cover. Seance in the Asylum. Oh, and then here's the back as well. It's just this piece here. So that's it. That's my current book haul. Yeah, I think it was about 2 months. And I do have a few more books to buy. Not many. I've got a little list of things I'm looking for. And I might do a little book shopping today. But then I will be done. But I've got enough. Oh yeah, so I've got to get some Chekhov books for Chekhov November. I want to get a copy of Ulysses by James Joyce because Alan invited me to another Portland event where we read Ulysses aloud, and I think I might do a little bit of a separate video on that experience because it was a lot of fun. But at the T.C. O'Leary's pub, we've been reading Ulysses aloud, kind of like you did in high school or in school period or I did, where we'd have to read one at a time and go through, and then they can kind of explain it. It's a book I never intended to read. In fact, I was kind of like, nah, I'm not touching that. But you know, if you find a fun social way to do it, I guess it doesn't matter. And I'd like to get a book by Gemma Files, who was recommended to me by someone on Discord. I'm not sure if I should mention people on Discord. I'll need to ask them about that. And then maybe a couple others. So anyway, I'm going to buy a few more books soon, and then I'm going to start my Read What You Own challenge. And I hope to talk to you about that. Well, I've talked about a lot of books. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you very much for listening. And let me know if you've read any of these, you know, or if any of these interest you. I really appreciate comments, as we all do. And yeah, I hope you have a happy. We're moving into November. It's going to be October. It's going to be Halloween soon. So happy reading.